Think about the last time something scared you. Maybe a dog barked too close. Maybe you heard a noise at night. Your heart jumped, your hands went cold, and within 30 seconds, it was over. Now imagine that feeling every single night for 300,000 years. Not a dog, a cave lion, 600 pounds of muscle built specifically to kill you. Not a noise in the dark, a pack of hyenas surrounding your camp, and no walls between you and them, no locks, no phone to call for help.
Your ancestors survived this every night. Without weapons made of metal, without traps made of steel, without anything you would recognize as useful against a predator that size. And the methods they used were so effective, so precisely engineered, that when modern survival experts and military trainers finally studied them, they stopped and said, "We didn't know they could do this." This is the story of how the weakest hunter on the prehistoric savanna became the most dangerous thing alive. Let's start with the problem. Anatomically, your ancestors had no business being alive. A cave lion could run 40 miles per hour. Your ancestors could manage maybe 12 on a good day. A pack of spotted hyenas had jaws strong enough to snap bone like dry wood. Your ancestors had hands better suited for throwing than fighting. A saber-toothed cat had canine teeth 8 inches long. Your ancestors had teeth that couldn't break through raw hide. On paper, they should have been extinct before they started. But here is what anatomy doesn't measure. And it is the thing that changed everything. The human brain. Not raw intelligence, not creativity, something more specific. The ability to model a predator's behavior, predict its next move, and set up a situation the predator never saw coming.
Archaeologist Pat Shipman spent decades studying cut marks on prehistoric bones. What she found wasn't random butchery, it was precise disarticulation. The same joints cut in the same sequence across thousands of years and thousands of miles. These weren't people frantically hacking at a carcass. They were people who had studied the anatomy of their prey so thoroughly they could process it in optimal sequence, in the dark, in under 20 minutes before the smell brought anything larger. That level of knowledge doesn't come from instinct, it comes from paying attention for generations. The first method is the one that surprises modern researchers most. They used fire as a weapons system. Not a campfire, not warmth, a deliberate, coordinated tool for controlling animal movement. Archaeologist Andrew Sorensen analyzed the tips of ancient wooden spears found at Schöningen, Germany, 400,000 years old. He found something unexpected: hardening marks. Controlled fire was being used to increase the tensile strength of wood by removing moisture at precise temperatures. Too hot and the wood becomes brittle, too cool and nothing changes. The right temperature, maintained for the right amount of time, makes the wood significantly stronger and harder. This was not accidental. This was material science. But fire management went further than tool production. Archaeological sites across Africa and Europe show evidence of landscape burning. Controlled fires set upwind of prey animals, driving them towards cliffs, towards rivers, towards narrow passes where waiting hunters had positioned themselves. Paleoanthropologist Lawrence Barham studied sites in Zambia showing this strategy in action. Animal bones clustered at the base of specific terrain features, ash deposits upwind, human tools at the ambush point. The evidence of a trap laid not by one person, but a coordinated group, over a timeline that required planning days in advance. A paleo lion has better senses than you, better speed, better weapons, but it cannot plan 3 days ahead. Your ancestors could. The second method is where the engineering becomes extraordinary: pit traps. Not the simple holes you imagine. Archaeologist Yoshihiro Nishiaki excavated sites in Syria showing pit construction so sophisticated that modern engineers studied the geometry before they understood the purpose. These pits were not dug straight down. They were dug at precise angles, wider at the bottom than the top, with the excavated soil piled in specific patterns around the rim. The geometry served three functions simultaneously. The narrower opening made the pit harder to see from animal eye level. The wider base meant a falling animal could not brace itself against the walls and climb out. The soil placement around the rim acted as a visual cue to any animal approaching, drawing it toward the opening rather than around it. Chemical analysis of residues at the bottom of several pits showed traces of fermented plant material, bait deliberately processed to enhance scent dispersal, positioned at the exact center of the base where a falling animal would land.
This is not instinct. Instinct does not ferment bait. Instinct does not calculate the angle of a pit wall to prevent escape. This is engineering with a 1,000-year institutional memory behind it. Here is what makes this genuinely uncomfortable to consider. The largest land predators of the Pleistocene, cave lions, woolly rhinoceroses, straight-tusked elephants, cave hyenas, giant short-faced bears, all of them went extinct, almost all of them in a window that aligns precisely with the spread of anatomically modern humans. Not climate change alone. Climate had changed before without mass extinction. This time it was different. Paleontologist Paul Martin called it the overkill hypothesis. Everywhere humans arrived, megafauna disappeared within a few thousand years. North America, Australia, Madagascar, New Zealand. The timing is too precise, too consistent to be coincidence. A species with no claws and a 12-mile-per-hour top speed managed to hunt to extinction animals that had survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and catastrophic climate shifts. Because the animals could outrun them, they could outfight them, they could smell them coming, but they couldn't outthink them. And there is the answer to the original question. There's a study from 2019 published in Nature Human Behavior that measured the cognitive load required for persistence hunting, the strategy of tracking and chasing prey to exhaustion over distances of up to 20 miles. The researchers found that successful persistence hunters weren't just tracking footprints, they were running a continuous mental model: the animal's gait, its fatigue level, its likely direction based on terrain and wind, the location of water sources, the position of competing predators attracted by the disturbance. Every second of a multi-hour hunt required maintaining and updating a complex model in working memory, while simultaneously managing your own hydration, your own fatigue, and the coordination of other hunters spread across the landscape. The average cognitive demand was roughly equivalent, the researchers noted, to playing simultaneous chess games while running a marathon. That is what your brain was built to do. Not spreadsheets, not traffic, not the particular misery of sitting in a fluorescent-lit room for 8 hours. Your brain was built to track something across 20 miles of open landscape, predict where it would go next, and position your group to be there first. In the Kalahari Desert, there are still hunters who do this. Louis Liebenberg, a researcher who spent years running with Bushman hunters in the 1980s and 1990s, documented persistence hunts in real time. He measured not just the physical, but the cognitive process. The hunters narrated their tracking aloud as they ran, explaining why a hoofprint at a certain depth meant the animal had shifted weight to favor its left front leg, why a change in stride length indicated heat exhaustion was setting in, why a particular rocky outcropping 3 miles ahead was where the animal would try to find shade. They were reading the future of an animal's body from the ground beneath their feet. Liebenberg made a specific observation that has stayed with researchers since. He noted that the explanatory commentary the hunters produced while tracking, the constant hypothesis building, the predictions, the corrections, was structurally identical to the scientific method. Not similar, identical. The systematic observation of evidence, the formation of a testable hypothesis, the prediction of future conditions, the modification of the hypothesis based on new information.
Your ancestors were not scientists, but the cognitive process that makes science possible is the same process that let them run a saber-toothed cat to exhaustion across an open plain 20,000 years before anyone had a word for hypothesis. Go back to that grocery store, the package of meat you picked up in 15 minutes. The animal it came from never had a chance. It was raised in a controlled environment, fed a calculated diet, harvested by a machine, packaged by another machine, transported in a refrigerated container. No one hunted it, no one chased it, no one planned for 3 days, or read its footprints, or modeled its exhaustion. Somewhere in the back of your brain, there is still a system that was built for that other thing. The system that reads a room and knows something is wrong before you can name it. The system that wakes you up at 3 in the morning with a certainty that you can't explain. The system that when everything is actually at stake suddenly becomes capable of things that surprise even you. That system isn't a malfunction. It isn't anxiety. It isn't a disorder. It is 600,000 years of engineering sitting inside you, unused, occasionally firing anyway. The predators are gone, the hunts are over, but the brain that survived them is still right there, still running the model, still waiting.